Welcome to Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More, the podcast that gives you a viewpoint on sports medicine that can't be found anywhere else. I'm your host, Eli Howard, and we have a fantastic show ahead of us today. So let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More. Today, we have something that is always fun to do, a different athletic field. We have Joel Dorning today with us as a co-host. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for me back on here.
And we have a new guest, and we're talking about something very unique I'm kind of excited about. You might be able to hear the animated tone in my voice. We're going to be talking about the AMA, not what all you healthcare providers think of as the AMA, but the American Motorcyclist Association. That's right. We're talking motorcycles, accidents, and healthcare with Dr. Paul Reiman, MD, of the Alpine Stars Mobile Medical Unit and the AMA. Hello, Paul. How you doing?
I am doing well today. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited. I was looking over your background and just wow. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself as we get started, that'd be great.
Sure, no problem. Happy to be here, and thank you for the invite. Background, I'm orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, but started my career in Akron, Ohio, and did half my career there doing like a lot of you do, covering high school football and trying to cover 4 or 5 schools at once. But in 1999, I moved out here to California to Temecula and set up a solo practice. Was fortunate enough that John Rentar of the Chaparral High School invited me to come help him out. And
Good friend of ours. He's actually been on the show. I didn't realize that.
he's been a great blessing. And I've just had great athletic trainers my entire career. Really gone down a lot of different paths in the career, ranging from serving at the Olympic Training Center to the high school to the colleges. But when I moved to Temecula, I had no clue in the world I was moving to the middle of the motocross industry of definitely the nation, if not the world. That's been a huge part of my career since about 2002, as far as beginning to take care of individual pro motocross riders, but then becoming part of what is now known as the Alpine Stars Mobile Medical Unit, which is our 18-wheeler urgent care center that we take from race to race to 38 races a year, but also serving on the AMA Medical and Safety Commission and running the concussion program for the National Series as well. That's a quick summary of where I'm at. I've had a very blessed career, some planned, some that I just fell into and have become very lucky with.
Now, I got to be honest, I didn't know Temecula was the middle of the motocross nation. I thought it was the middle of wine country. So that's new to me.
It is that too.
We'll have to circle back a little later about John Rentar. Maybe some anecdotes you might have, but we'll worry about that towards the end if you don't mind.
No problem. I have several, and unfortunately he has several on me too. So,
well, it's okay. We'll keep him off the air for a while then. So, a few questions right off the bat. How did you end up becoming part of Motocross Nation? It just amazes me. I'm looking at what you've done over the years and how the medical staff there went from basically nothing 28 years ago, 1998, 2000, how it just started talking about it to now. I mean, that semi, we got to talk about that.
Well, it started out with Dr. John Bodner in San Diego, an emergency room doctor who raced himself, was going to the races and then started covering the races with literally the little black doctor's bag, covering the races down in Carlsbad and some of the other races, and then went on to began covering the pro level. The semi that you see on the website is our 4th vehicle, and second full semi. We had a smaller semi back in the early 2000s and a simple toy trailer before that. But
Yeah, that early 2003 model is not as simple as you would think. That looks pretty booyah too.
Well, again, that's John Bodner and then Tom Carson, who's a former extremely high level professional racer, have really been the coordinators that have put all this together. And I'm losing track of the years a little bit. I believe in 2004, I was taking care of a lot of the professional level guys on a private basis. So I would come to the races, but I would always go tell Dr. Bodner what I was doing and what kind of treatment they were getting, because he's the guy, if something happened, had to pick them up off the track. And then finally he said, Paul, you're down here all the time. Why don't you come work? That
You're
is
putting in the time and the effort. Come be part of the gang.
right. So that's the short summary. And to show you that Temecula Murrieta is the center of it, the KTM motorcycle company, their corporate headquarters is based out of Austria. They just opened up, I believe, not quite 2 years ago, a $65 million North American headquarters in between Temecula and Murrieta,
Oh my.
including their own private test track. It is no manufacturing, it's all corporate and race teams.
Oh, that's pretty fun. That's got to be an incredible site.
It's a great facility with really good people. And that's, people think that dirt bike riders are crazy people. No, they're good people and they're high level athletes.
Paul, one of the things I was looking at, when I got a chance to see your trailer on the website, and anyone who is, I mean, that's got to make some people jealous that what you have mobile compared to what a lot of clinics might have just as a normal setup on a day-to-day basis. How did you guys come to get to where you are now with your fourth trailer?
Well, again, it was John Bodner and Tom Carson, and they were originally sponsored by a spin-off of the CTI company called Asterix. It was an off-the-shelf knee brace. They used initially as a model what IndyCar was using. They had one on a much smaller scale that they would bring from IndyCar to IndyCar race, which is a little different because most of those tracks will have a bricks and mortar medical center at the track. So we use that as a model. I've only been involved in the last two versions. So the early ones were that, I believe approximately 6 years ago, our sponsors changed from Asterix to Alpine Stars, which is a very large company that supplies not only the motocross industry, but the road race industry, the Formula One industry, and NASCAR with many of their suits and boots, etc. They've been a great sponsor for us and has helped out very much.
So I'm going to tee up a question for Joel because we were talking about this beforehand. I'm on the website for AMA Pro, and you've got Super Motocross World Championships, American Flat Tire Track, American Hill Climb, AMA Pro ATV, American Pro Motocross. You got a lot of stuff going on. And with that, I'm sure multiple levels, multiple events. I know Joel looked at me and had a question earlier, and I'm going to let him ask it.
Well, yeah, because, and you mentioned it too, you said you cover 38 races a year. I mean, what kind of spectrum are you guys going on as far as traveling, and how do you coordinate? Because there's got to be conflicts with schedules that come up from time to time.
Right. We have multiple people that are part of the team. We don't all show up at the same race. The team is minimally, for Supercross, made up of 2 doctors, a trauma nurse, a certified athletic trainer, and 1 or 2 paramedics. And then we use local paramedics on top of that. Southern California and Anaheim will use Anaheim Fire and their paramedic crews. There are 3 what we call lead doctors that do it, and then we have about 4 other doctors who would be the second doctor. For the outdoors, which is 12 of those races, we have 1 doctor. And then when we get back into the playoffs, we go back up to 2 doctors. We may double staff the trauma nurse. I believe we have 3 athletic trainers that rotate 1 prime that's based out of UCSD. And then we have 2 others that will cover 2 or 3 races a year for us. The travel, depending on the race, you leave on Thursday and come back Sunday, or leave on Friday and come back Sunday. You have to have a very understanding spouse. The sports medicine field is, it's a weekend and nighttime job. When it comes to motocross, when it comes to covering a scholastic, whether it be high school or college or junior college, it's a 6-7 day a week job. So that's how we do it. We are reimbursed for travel and have a per diem. It doesn't pay the bills, but it does. It pays the mental bills because we have a good team. We interact extremely well together. And, it's everything from preventative treatment before the race, taking care of them as an acute trauma patient on the track, and deciding, can we treat them in our unit, or is it somebody that needs a higher level of care in an emergency room in a trauma center?
So you guys got this all covered. That's a pretty nice looking staff for an event.
Yeah. The doctors, we try to cover it with one emergency room doctor and one orthopedic doctor.
That makes sense.
We have different skills and that we can, both from being able to do things timely, but to give the athlete and the individual the best care. We take care of the athletes. We also take care of the support crew, the mechanics, the spouses, the TV announcers, and everybody that's associated.
We've been there and done that at games before. We both understand that. We're in healthcare, you don't stop. You take care of everybody, no matter who they are.
Yeah. We do not go up in the stands where there's 60,000 people, though. We don't do that. There's a local paramedic crew that will always be in charge of the stands.
Well, that's nice because that's a big number to go and be in
Yes.
charge of, right?
My legs are not getting longer. I have trouble getting up the stands at high school, let alone in Anaheim Stadium. Or
Yeah, I feel that myself, so I understand that.
What's your favorite venue you've covered?
Majoria, Italy. Once a year they
Ooh.
have a motocross of nations, which is, depending on the year, anywhere from 50 to 70 countries. Each country has a team of 3, and you will go to the different tracks. And I've had the fortune to be team physician for 2 years, 2 different occasions, once in Germany, once in Italy. And this year I'm the team physician going to Southern England. It's an international event. It's essentially, we're in Olympic Games time. It's the Olympic Games of motocross.
That sounds phenomenal. I had seen that on your background, was the team physician, Team USA Motocross of the Nations 2013, 16, 24. And I sat there going, what the heck is that? Like the Olympics? And yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It is. In the United States, my favorite track is a place called Redbud. It's in Buchanan, Michigan, southern Michigan, about 45 minutes north of South Bend. And it's not only the track itself, it's the track owners, and it's the crowd. It just makes an unbelievable event. They have had the Motocross of Nations at Redbud several times. So the United States gets that race about every 5 years.
So it rotates internationally then.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's gotta be fun. Sorry, honey, I gotta go to Italy this year. Sounds a lot better than sorry, honey, I'm going to Michigan.
Honey, you want to go to Italy.
There you go. Exactly.
That's
That's an easy
how you
sell.
handle it. It was an immediate yes.
That sounds like a good 1 week trip, because that isn't just 4 days, I'm sure.
No. The business time is 4 days, and the rest of the time is good playtime.
Yeah, I bet.
This will make it worth your time.
Now, I'll be honest. I use motocross in my class all the time because there are some definitive crazy injuries that happen.
Yeah.
At my school, I teach a sports medicine, anatomy, physiology, medical science class, and it is medical. We get dirty with our hands, we figure out what's an injury, what's not, how to understand what it is. And you got to show video, you got to show pictures. And we've seen some nasty ones over the years, but nothing compares to in person. So I'm going to ask the question that I know every student in my class would ask. What kind of injuries do you see most often, and what are some of the really bad ones you've dealt with?
Yeah, well, we've got a pretty good data collection system. So our most common injury we see is going to be wrist fractures. Our second most common is concussion. It's a high risk sport for concussion. It's different than football on types and mechanisms, etc. But those are the two most. The most devastating injuries, obviously, are spinal cord injuries, and we haven't had many, but when you have one, that's one too many.
Knock on wood, right? Knock on wood. Yeah. That's too many.
And it could range anything and everything. So on a concussion basis, our data is 2.8 per race when you average it out. Indoor, whether it's Supercross, which is the stadium racing, or outdoor on a natural track, their incidence is about the same.
That's interesting. I always wondered what the difference was between motocross and outdoor. So it's natural versus basically man-made.
Man-made. Anaheim Stadium in California, there is a pile of dirt stored that they use every year, and they move it in. It's about 200 dump truck loads.
Oh, wow.
And there's a separate company that both designs the track and builds the track. It's called Dirtworks. And these guys are magicians on the skidsters and the bulldozers and things that they do that with. Because the same company that owns Supercross also owns monster trucks. It stays in the stadium for a couple of weeks.
Smart move, makes life easier for everybody involved.
We could see a little bit of everything, and like in other sports, you'll see runs, and there'll be one year you won't see any knee injuries, and there'll be another year you'll see tremendous number. For some reason, this year we have an epidemic of gamekeepers and bony gamekeepers' thumbs. Why? We know the mechanism, but why this year as opposed to any other year we haven't been able to identify that. But concussions and wrist fractures are the most common.
How many riders are usually in each race?
In the final event in Supercross, it's 22. However, in the morning and early afternoon, they do qualifying, and depending on the race, maybe up to 110, 120 riders trying to qualify. There are two classes, a 250cc class and a 450cc class. And so you divide that up. The top 40 riders on the fastest one lap qualifying time will then qualify for the night program. And they don't make money until they hit the night program. So the athletes can be making well into the millions, or they could be driving to the race in their own pickup truck on their own dime and everything in between. But they're still faster than anybody else at your local track that you might find. It gets narrowed down. Outdoors, they have 40 riders in the main event at the start gate. But same concept, depending on the ratio, you may have double that coming in, and then it's narrowed down due to qualifying time. Like many other things that you might see in the BMX racing and et cetera, they have a last chance qualifier. For outdoors, the top 36 automatically go, and then everybody else fights for the last 4 spots in the last chance qualifier. Medically, it's an all-day affair between practice, evaluating people from previous injuries, previous weeks, then the practices, maybe a 45-minute break, and then the night program, then the true racing program starts, which is 3 or 4 hours worth.
Now, I know we said earlier that you kind of take care of everybody. How is, and this is kind of a biased question because, athletic trainers, that's our career. And we've found just some unique situations like this one where athletic trainers are utilized. How is your crew of athletic trainers, how are their skills best utilized in this situation?
In a couple different ways. Number one is pre-race, or even if something's happened in a practice before the night events, if there's any kind of support, whether it be braces or taping, the athletic trainer is right there. He's got his own closet in our trailer. So that's a lot of what he does before the race. He and the paramedic are also one of their duties is to make sure our mules, we have their ALS, BLS equipped mules, but with splints, et cetera, because you don't want to take an ambulance gurney onto the track.
I saw that. That came out in, I think it was 2002,
Mhm.
after somebody tried to get another person off the track
Right.
and just couldn't.
Right.
And they went to a mule, and brilliant idea. I mean, how do you get a golf cart or just a regular cart to help a guy on a track like that?
Some of the local guys might come out in a golf cart or a John Deere Gator, and we've pulled them out because they got stuck in the mud.
Yeah, I bet.
But the other things the trainer will do is once everybody's stabilized, then we all go on the track. They will have their own station and the section of track that they're responsible for, that if a rider has an injury. When we transport a rider off the track, we will not only have the physician generally do the driving, but then either the athletic trainer or the paramedic will be in the mule right beside the rider. So we don't have people trying to do both watch the injured rider and drive the mule at the same time. Depending on what the athlete needs when we bring him in for evaluation, the trainer may help, or they may go right back out to the track. As there is an athletic event, there's cleanup afterwards as well. Initially, in the concussion program that we established back in 2011, the trainer that was with us at that time was an integral part of the concussion program as well. As you have in every sport, we have a very well-defined but sport-specific return to play program that is going to be very different than a football one, than a cheerleaders, return to play, et cetera. And it involves both gym time and track time in a well-supervised situation. The initial trainer in the assistance of the concussion program, our athletes will come to a race, and then after that race on Sunday, they will fly back home or to wherever they're training, which means it's all over the country. So we cannot, as physicians, we cannot do their concussion follow-up. So the program, I think, is somewhat unique, as we've got a system around the country that we've developed where we know who to call in their local area that will be responsive to get the athletes in for their follow-up evaluations.
Very nice. Very nice. And it looks like I'm actually on your concussion page right now, and it looks like you guys utilize Impact to establish a baseline with everybody.
Yes, we do. We choose Impact, and it's a good test, but there are other ones out there as well.
Definitely.
But we use it because it's available internationally to be able to get our baselines. We have a lot of international riders that come over, even for 1 or 2 races, and to be able to do that, have them do that online and not physically doing a baseline test with them, and then we can get follow-up, even if the local physician in Podunk, USA doesn't have access to Impact, I can give it under, as long as they're supervised, a post-injury test as well. So it works well for us from the standpoint logistically, realizing that there are other ways to do neurocognitive tests, baselines, and post-injury.
Anybody who enters into one of their motocross races has to preemptively do that to be eligible,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, because that makes it hard, because I mean, in our setting, we deal with our athletes on a day-to-day basis, but you might not know who you're going to see on a weekend.
It's a first-time racer, or what we call one-offs. They're the races in Southern Michigan, and they live in Southern Michigan. They have a pro license. Well, they're going to show up for that, but they may not spend the money to drive to Southern California for a race or Southern Washington. So, but it enables us to get that baseline. We've also got a good communication system with the FIM, which is the European Motorcycle Foundation, and a good connection with their medical people, so that if a rider over there has a concussion riding in Europe, but they're planning to come into the US, we hear from Dr. McManus that we need to get this guy set up, and it works well.
That's fantastic. We utilize as one of our tools, because you can never have enough tools in your tool belt. We utilize Impact as well at our facility, along with a couple other a couple other tools. So it works really well for us. One thing I have to ask, how do some of those riders that you deal with balance kind of the inherent risk of what they're doing with, you know, life, I guess. I'm not sure how else to ask that. It's not like this is a low potential impact sport. And these guys are high level athletes, very physically fit, but they're going up with some machines that have a little impact if they land incorrectly. So, how do they weigh those risks and how do you help them through those situations?
Well, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's very difficult. We don't have a lot of them, but the athletes can turn professional at age 16.
Oh, wow, really? That young?
Exactly. I would say the average age of entry into the professional motocross, supercross racing is going to be 18. AMA and the promoters have put together a pretty good pre-training camps and races where they're able to ride the tracks, but not necessarily compete as pros. And that we believe has helped. But like many sports, it's a family event, particularly on the amateur level. It's heavily supported by the families, whether it's the bikes, whether it's the RVs, whether it's traveling all over the country. Not dissimilar to travel teams in many other sports. There's a huge investment. They do balance the risk, but it depends on their maturity level. We all know athletes mature mentally over time, and there are most of the time.
Most of the
Sometimes I never
time.
do.
Yeah, some of us never do. I'm not going to point a finger at myself, but you know,
And there comes to be a point in the time where they say we're done. Everybody's individual. I think our average age is probably going to be around 24 or 25. If you're beyond 32 or 33, and this is going to come back to haunt me, some guy's going to come back and tell me you called me old. You're considered an old rider. It doesn't mean you're bad. It probably means you're pretty good to be able to keep going like that. But they do recognize the risk, and most of them, as they get beyond that mid-20s, are married with children, and I'm sure they get told that, but at the same time, it's a lifestyle. Many have been able to move on to other things. Like any professional athlete, there are some that don't plan well and don't do well, but many have been able to develop alternative businesses, whether it be within the sport or outside the sport.
elevate your knowledge, ignite your curiosity, and compete with the best minds at events hosted by the American Academic Competition Institute. AACI's sports medicine competitions feature practical exercises, challenging quizzes, specialty tests, and keynote speakers that foster knowledge and social engagement in healthcare and sports medicine. Go to aacitest.org for more information on upcoming regional and national competitions. Sign up for the ultimate intellectual showdown. So earlier, you mentioned spinal cord injuries, and that's something that is, always a fear of any medical staff that works at a contact, high risk environment or sport. We at our school are constantly living in fear, so to speak, in the back of your mind for that one. I have a special place in my heart for spinal cord injuries and head injuries. My wife was a neurophysical therapist for
Right.
many years. So that's all she treated.
Right.
And that is life altering.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to those type of injuries, how do you guys manage spine injuries on the track and transportation to the hospital in those potentially life-changing situations?
If we get to an athlete and we're not able to evaluate for spinal cord injuries, we assume it is. The most common is an unconscious athlete. Anyone that has a concussion gets a C-collar as they're taken off the track, no matter what, due to their altered state. We handle it in a couple different ways. No different than any other on-site medical care. We've got somebody stabilizing the head, somebody stabilizing the body, particularly in someone that has the associated loss of consciousness. As they wake up, they could start thrashing and moving, etc. You don't want to wrestle them, but at the same time, you want to have a control. We have a little something that helps us out quite a bit. Very tough to get a C-collar on somebody that has a motorcycle helmet on.
I bet it is.
The modern design helmets, number one, their cheek pads pop out, but there's also a device called an eject device, originally called hats off. It's a very simple concept that works extremely well. It's essentially a balloon that's in the top of the helmet and an IV tube that comes out the left side. We have CO2 cartridges and we inflate the balloon, and it takes the helmet atraumatically off the head. My former partner and I did a lot of fluoro studies, and it does not move the neck. It's a 3-person job. One using the CO2, one guiding the helmet, and the third stabilizing the neck. So we will always do that before we get the athlete up. If our evaluation says this is a spinal fracture, but it's without neurological compromise, we'll use a standard backboard. If there's neurological compromise, we'll use the deflatable beanbag, which has been shown to reduce complications significantly for spinal cord injury. Someone with a spinal cord injury, they're going to leave them in whatever they're immobilized on in the hospital, and it can be range from 2 hours to 5 hours, and depending on the evaluation. And it is these individuals, athletes or not, get significant pressure sores and other potential complications that can be significant. And the beanbags have been shown to markedly reduce that. So we have one of those on the track at all times.
Very interesting. I've never heard of that product. I'm actually typing as we talk right now. That's interesting. Joel, you ever heard of that one?
No, it actually sounds very interesting. Also, Paul, I was thinking about as you're talking about it, what are some of the challenges based on how the tracks are set up? And because it's not like you're on a football field where it's a flat surface.
The biggest challenge is if it's a track that's designed that has 3 lanes side by side, we can always get around the outside of the track. But if there's 3 lanes side by side, the lane in the middle is tough to get to, whether it be on foot. And with the mule, it's even tougher. Motocross is different than other sports. The race continues. They don't stop the race. We have the ability to red flag it. We don't do that often, but we do it when we need to do it. So those are the challenges. Weather is a challenge. They're racing in upstate New York this weekend. There's this hurricane, Debbie, that's coming through upstate New York.
I've heard something about that. Yeah.
So it's going to be a mud fest, and you're trying to get an emergency vehicle up a hill in the rain and the mud. It can get really tough. Position of the injured athlete. Dirt bike racing is all about hills and jumps. Sometimes they end up on the hill head down and feet up, and getting them immobilized and moved to a safer position can sometimes be pretty difficult, which is why when we get to that, we've always got 4 or 5 people giving us a hand to do so that are trained.
How often are you practicing your EAPs with your crew?
Every Saturday morning. Okay, that's part of our pre-event orientation, because again, even on our team, we have different people coming in. They're all experienced, have done it before, but they're different. The local paramedics, we usually get about 50% of them that are repeat helpers, people that have helped us. And so there's always new people that need to be reviewed. And each locale is going to have their own rules as far as transport and where they transport. And that's something that we need to know. We need to know what trauma center they're going to. We need to know the neurological center that we can send them to. So all that is in our preparation. It's usually a half hour, 45 minutes before any racing, any bikes are on the track.
So your pre-game ritual is not coffee and donuts. It's
It's
let's
that
talk
too.
EAP. Well, okay,
It's
at least you
that
got
too.
some coffee in there,
You're,
definitely.
you're looking at the guy who's in charge of bringing the donuts. So
Yeah, well, and we'll come back to that when we start
okay.
talking about John Rentar. Yeah, I'm still back on the thought of somebody in Trendelenburg position
Yes.
having to spine board him.
Right.
I've never ever even thought about that in my career.
It's a challenge. Those are videos that are not on the website.
I would suspect not. Yeah, I
Mm.
wouldn't want to put him out there. That's impressive. Literally, I'm pulling up beanbag spinal
No,
cord assistance.
yeah, I can get you the reference on that. The company we use is based out of San Diego.
Would love to get that information. Anything like that is always of interest to us. So yeah,
I
that sounds exciting.
I would get it on a text from Dr. Bodner, but he's on an airplane to upstate New York right now. So
Getting ready to enjoy that little weather
Love that.
thing coming in. Yeah.
called slipping and sliding down there.
I think you picked the right weekend to stay home.
Yeah.
What keeps you coming back every year? This has got to be, it's not a light project. This is something you got to do because you love it and it's a lot of work. So what keeps you coming back?
Well, one, I'm getting a little bit more of this every year. So I've been around a while. I've been around a while. It's fun. It's fun. Honestly, I've backed down on my clinical practice and I'm primarily doing education at the hospital of young physicians. But I'm still doing this because of the people, not only the writers, but all the other AMA officials that are around and the flaggers outside of the top guys at the AMA. We all have our real jobs. One of our guys, that's one of the upper guys, has a Christmas tree farm in Oregon.
I like him. I'm a Christmas guy, so
And
hats off to him.
so motocross is not during his busy season, it's during the off season. He's at every race. He's at all 37 races.
Wow.
So everybody does a little bit different, but it's the people. It's the people and the athletes that understand you. I've been around long enough. I've got 4 riders that are in the Motorcycle Hall of Fame. So it's
That's pretty cool.
which tells you I've been around a little bit.
A couple years, maybe 2,
Yeah.
3, right?
You don't live vicariously through your athletes, but you really like to get to know them and know them well.
How have you seen technology change in your time, and obviously improvements both medically and for the racers as well?
It's changed tremendously. And let's start with the equipment side. Back in the probably 2008, 2009, the helmet technology changed significantly. And all the certifications for motorcycle helmets there were 3 major ones. They were the Schnell, the DOT, and then a European standard, the ECU. They were all designed and the traditional anvil coming down on the helmet, et cetera, for direct blows. What they did not help were the rotational concussions, where the head is torqued. The original company with the new modern design was a company called 6D, which is a Southern California company, where instead of having one single layer, it's called EPS, it's styrofoam, that would compress with the blow. They would have 2 layers with elastomers in between, and so they could slide on one another. Since that time, there's been 2 or 3 other systems developed, but the modern design of the helmets, we feel has helped. We don't have hardcore data on it. We feel it's helped not necessarily prevent concussions entirely, but certainly prevent the magnitude of the force. Some of the certifications were too rigid so that the outer shell of the helmet would not absorb any energy. So that whole design, and in fact, I believe tomorrow I have a joint conference on some new ideas that some of the companies are coming out with. Helmets that you use all the time by the Rydell company, they also have Bell motorcycle helmets. So there's a lot of joint things going on. There's a lot, the same technology. I know the NFL has looked at it, and some of the early design newer football helmets have incorporated this. So that's a biggie. A brand new technology that is coming, that actually has just been released, is most of the riders wear some kind of chest protector. It could be a little piece of cloth, or it could be something substantial. Our Medical and Safety Commission has mandated chest protectors for anyone under age 14 because of the commotio cordis.
Of course.
We didn't get negative feedback on that, and which is a good thing. But the brand new designs that are coming out are airbags, integrated airbags in chest protectors.
Really?
Yes, there are, and the rodeo riders are right on top of this as well. Some are very simple, just, attached by a lanyard. If you fall off, the lanyard pops out. Some are extremely sophisticated with 3 gyroscopes and 3 accelerometers and multiple CO2 cartridges that it inflates not only when you leave the bike, but if there's a certain rotational movement or torque that's been researched, analyzing multiple crashes. And then when you land, the airbag deflates in 20 seconds, so you can get back on your bike.
Wow.
It's just come out. It's brand new. It's not cheap, but there's one major company, and then there's 3 or 4 other ones that are doing things of varying degrees. It is being required in Europe first. There's a motocross specific one. There's a road racing specific one. There's a specific one for the Dakar race, which is the multi-day race through the deserts of Saudi Arabia and Northern Africa.
Talk about hot. We were complaining about Southern California hot. That's a different level.
Yeah, it's a brutal race. We have local people that have done extremely well in that. And in fact, an American has won the last 3, Ricky Brayback, which usually it's won by the Europeans, but Ricky has taken it to heart and has done extremely well. So helmet technology, airbag technology, the other equipment technology, and it's actually been around for a while, is the use of carbon fiber articulated wrist braces. And I know this is crossed over in the other contact sports as well. It allows the athlete to get back quicker, even if their wrist is a little stiff after injury. It protects them from pushing beyond that. You don't want to do their manipulation on the track or on the court. Obviously, medically, there's been a lot of innovations. We understand concussions better. Do we understand them entirely? No, but we're getting better at it. We're getting better with our diagnoses. There's some excitement coming out, but it's not ready for prime time yet when it comes to blood testing.
Of course, I know that's being based out of San Diego, if I remember correctly.
There's a couple different ones.
Really?
There's one that was developed, ironically, by a Dr. Ryman at Banner Institute in Arizona. No relation.
Darn shame, right? Wish it
Yeah.
was.
No, he's a smart man. The design to help decide, do you need a CT scan after potential head trauma? They're still doing research on it. It is commercially available. I don't know how many ERs are using that. More importantly, there's another one that is, I'll throw a bone. It's not based out of San Diego. It's based out of Temecula. Abbott Laboratories is in Temecula.
Of course, I think we all know Abbott Laboratories nowadays,
Yeah.
but all right.
So,
what do they got?
Ironically, one of the proteins that is released in concussion is called NFL, and it measures protein levels in the blood. Somehow they can do that despite the blood-brain barrier to determine when to return after a concussion.
Well, that's interesting. And also the irony there called NFL. I just have to take a moment to laugh internally. Definitely.
Yeah. So those are the 2 big ones coming out. From a clinician standpoint, I think I'm pretty good at making the diagnosis of concussion. And I think, like all of us, we err on the side that yes, you do, no, you don't. But the ability to have one more quantitative piece of data to say, yes, you are ready to go back would be extremely helpful.
Yes, it would. I tell you what, one of our passions, definitely at our school, is the treatment, evaluation, and recovery from concussions.
Yes.
We have several tools we use in our tool belt to give us objective data, which makes our lives so much easier when dealing with some of these young men at our school that want to go back way too early.
Not
So
like athletes are stubborn at all.
oh, never, never. And they're
Yeah.
always so honest, they'll only tell you the truth. So having an objective
I
tool.
won't say my cliche on that, but
Oh, please do. Please do.
athletes lie. They want to go.
No, they don't.
For
No.
the reason they want to go back. And particularly in a concussion, they may feel fine,
Yeah.
but they're not ready. And that's and that's tough. But we've all done our bits of athletic endeavors over the years and done things we shouldn't have done. But at the same time, it's our job to keep them safe.
That's exactly it right there. And I tell you what, keeping them safe. I pulled up the airbag system. Oh my goodness. I'm looking at and I'll throw it out there because they're a big sponsor for you guys. Alpine Stars Tech Air 5 airbag system. It is literally an airbag around your entire torso. Looks like it's part of a jacket that just goes under your pads.
Mhm.
Holy mackerel, that is freaking cool.
Yeah, it's basically an integrated chest protector with it's hard on the front and hard on the back to protect the sternum, to protect the spine. In the design of it, we helped them say, we really need the scapula covered as well, because we get a lot of direct blows to the scapula and the potential pneumothoraxes, etc. They've done their research on it. They've done their development. I believe it's been about a 7 or 8 year development, and it literally has just been released.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that little pearl of wisdom. That's pretty cool for some of us to see. And then you got to wonder, where else will they take this tech, into what other sports and what other venues?
It's already in rodeo.
I believe it. Perfect for rodeo.
It is in the motorcycle discipline flat track,
Okay.
as well as road racing. The freestyle guys haven't been on it yet, but they usually take a little while. Those are the main disciplines they're in, as well as the day car race. At the professional level, they can make it mandatory. Our medical and safety commission, we work with the amateur level, and we have to really kind of do one step at a time. Right now, we're mandating chest protector. We don't say they have to have an airbag. It's to spend the money for a 10-year-old kid. I'd rather have them spend the extra money on a better helmet.
Yeah, I bet. And going back to concussions, because again, that's a part of our passion. Better helmets. That's who you are right there. Everything in that skull is you. So it's important to protect it.
Yep.
Definitely. Wow. Learning a lot today, huh, Joel?
Yeah, there's a lot of components to motocross I never even thought about.
With all the different styles and events, the flat track, the motocross, what's your favorite one to watch and or care for the day of an event?
Outside of the motocross of nations, which, to be honest, is not a lot of work for the doctor. I'm only taking care of 3 guys.
Well, that's kind of nice.
Yeah. So would be the supercross. In that standpoint, it's not only the athletic competition, bigger crowd. The promoter it's a showtime as well, with fireworks and laser lights and all that kind of stuff. So probably that. It's not that I don't enjoy doing the outdoors, I do, but it's when you say, how do you feel after you're coming back from the race on the weekend? It's a better feeling coming back from Supercross. That's personal. You'll talk to my other 2 colleagues and they'll say something entirely different.
Of course, we all have I hate to say it, we all have our preferred areas that we just naturally like a little more.
Yes.
We don't dislike anybody else. So let me just get that
Right.
out there real quick.
Right.
We love all our athletes. We take care of them the same.
Yep.
We are there for them. But, there's just every now and then a little something you prefer.
Exactly. And you never know where these athletes may end up. You'll say, yeah, that athlete was pretty good in high school, and the next thing you know, he's a #1 draft choice in the major league draft, or you hear about your high school having 2 guys drafted to the NFL this year. you're going, okay.
Wait a minute. Wait, that kid? I
Yeah.
remember when he was scrawny. What are you talking about? Yeah, I
Um,
understand that.
Vista Marietta, who's 5 minutes from my hospital, has an Olympic athlete who may win the gold,
Which event?
400 meter,
Which one?
Mike Norman.
Yes, of course. Yeah. We were watching qualifiers.
Yeah. I just felt bad. Chaparral had a young man who was running 47.2s in the 400 who could never win the conference because Michael was there at that time.
Oh, poor kid.
That time.
Yep. Just needed to wait 2, 3 more years and then come back.
Yeah.
Take a red shirt twice at the high school level.
He took a full ride scholarship to Stanford.
I-
He did okay.
Yeah, that's a little better, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Again, just watching these people, and you may not recognize when you're helping them out initially, but then as they progress, it's not that you were how you say, the person that made their career, but you watch them with great interest, and it's always very satisfying that way.
Of course, of course. So we're coming up on a little over an hour, and I don't want to take too much of your day. You are fantastic to be part of this, but I do know we have a dear friend and colleague in Temecula that we both know and love dearly. He's a great guy, and I was just wondering if you have any good anecdotes that you're willing to share, and if you're not, I understand, about our good athletic trainer friend John Rentar down there.
John is a very dear friend and welcomed me with open arms when I moved to town. And he had 2 other physicians helping him out. And I did the simple thing is I showed up on time and I checked the athletes after the game, which was different than the other physicians. So we've done a lot over the years. I try to sprint out on the field. He's picked me up as I tripped over my own feet. So
That's why I don't sprint. Well, that's one of the many reasons, but yeah.
But I brought young people to help me, so I mosey out like the professor now. John has some unique talents. This was not a game I was at, but it was a game that my partner was covering, 2 of the local Temecula high schools. An athlete went down on the Chaparral sidelines from the other team. Very good athlete, ended up being a D1 athlete with a shoulder dislocation. And my partner who was there, who's a very tall, long-legged guy, I can do this. The guy was big, athlete was big and strong, and he was resisting. So John just went down and got in his ear and said, "Babes on a beach in bikinis," and repeated it about 4 times, and the shoulder went in immediately.
So he relaxed really quickly when he just said, "Think of a beach that looks like this."
Yes, John.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
John gave him the visual, and so that we call that Rentar anesthesia.
Rentar anesthesia forever and ever. From now on, we will call it Rentar anesthesia. And John, I hope you like this. I'll make sure you get tagged because we want to make sure you stay around for this part. The funny thing in this whole situation, as we were talking before the podcast began, we've actually met before when we played at Chaparral. You guys are so kind to host the teams that are coming in. You were great to our entire medical staff. You guys had, I believe it was hot dogs and hamburgers. You were barbecuing just for medical staff and invited us over to have a little food before the game. And that's the first time I've ever seen that. And just so welcoming. I wanted to say thank you yet again. I know I said it that day, but that just tells you so much about you and the whole program over there and the entire medical staff. Just great people.
It really is. And again, John's the center of that and does an unbelievable job. And again, as a close friend as well. And my daughter called him my spy when she went to school there, but that's okay.
Well, it's good for a dad to have a little spy around his daughter every now and then, just in case. But I've got 2, so I understand.
We have a good crew. We do that for every playoff game, and then we do it for one other game a year. The schedule's usually a Marietta or another Temecula school, so we kind of rotate that. It's really just a lot of it's for the student trainers, which are an integral part of the success of any of our jobs.
So true. I mean, shout out to all our high school students that participate and help in the program. And then in our case, and I think John as well, we try to help the next generation by being preceptors for local universities. I know at our school, we're preceptors for Cal State University Northridge. We were Azusa Pacific before they folded, and now happy to say University of Laverne, our
That's
school,
great.
have
That's
become a
great.
site. What universities or interns do you guys usually work with?
Well, we don't have a lot. I do bring the family medicine residents from Loma Linda Marietta
Oh,
to the
fantastic.
game. So in fact, we have one that's doing a sports medicine fellowship right now. And to develop those, because you're not going to have ortho sports at every high school. You're not, it's going to be the family doc who either has a son plan or a daughter plan and has an interest, but we try to give them some training in it as well. We're short on universities in Temecula. We have Mount San Jacinto Junior Community College, and they have their own program. We're actively fundraising, et cetera, to get a branch of Cal State San Marcos up here.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
We have 5,000 students coming from our part of Riverside County going to San Marcos and driving the freeway 45 minutes every day.
And that's without traffic, I'm sure.
No, that's with traffic, which is terrible. But
Yeah.
we live in
That
California.
makes it
So
fun.
Yeah, traffic is part of California. Doctor, I want to say thank you for being a guest, a fantastic guest, and really giving us a deep dive into the world of the American Motorcycle Association, telling us what it's really like. This has been very educational. I'm definitely going to reach back out to you when we're done. I'd love some information on a few of those pieces of equipment we were talking about.
absolutely.
But this has been great. I'm so glad we finally connected. We've been trying to do this now for, I think, 2 months.
About
So,
that, Jeff.
yeah, no, I appreciate your time. Hopefully we see you again during football season. If you guys head up this way, we'll make sure to take care of food on our side, I promise.
Okay, it sounds good. Sounds good.
Thank you, Dr. Ryman. You have a great day, great afternoon, and thanks for being on Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More. Have a great day.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Want to make sure you hear every episode? Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast. Don't forget to share our podcast with your colleagues, family, and friends. Your support will help more people find and enjoy our content. Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More is directed by Eli Halleck. It is produced by Gabriel Halleck. Our theme music is by Coma Studios via Pixabay. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are solely those of the contributors. Want to know more about us? Visit us at wrapituppodcast.com. That's with 1P, wrapituppodcast.com. Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More is a production of Halleck Consulting, LLC.